So you found your person. Finally someone who got you, I mean really got you, in a way nobody ever had before. Same taste in music, same sense of humor, same values, same wounds almost. Like they'd been built from the same blueprint. And you remember thinking, even saying out loud, that it felt almost too good to be true. Well done about that. Because here's what actually happened in those early weeks and months. While you were falling, they were working. While you were opening up, sharing things you'd never told anyone, feeling finally seen and understood, they were filing it all away. Every preference, every insecurity, every dream, everything you'd always wanted in another person. Every time you said, "I've always loved," or "I've never been able to find someone who," they noted it, and then they became it. Not because they felt it. Because they could see it was working. Let me ask you something. Think back to who they were before you got close. Think about the person they were with other people, friends, family, colleagues. Did that person match the one you fell for? Did the things they claimed to love, the values they said they had, the version of themselves they showed you, did any of that show up consistently anywhere else in their life? Or was it just with you? Because that's not a soulmate, that's an audition. And you were the only one in the audience who didn't know they were watching a performance. So let's talk about what mirroring actually is. Not the romantic version you told yourself, the real one. Mirroring is a technique. That's it. No magic, no cosmic connection, no, we were meant to find each other. It's a calculated process of reflection, and when someone does it deliberately, consciously, on a person they've identified as a target, it has nothing to do with love. It has rather everything to do with access. Let me tell you how it works. And I want you to pay attention, because this is going to be uncomfortable. In the beginning, they asked a lot of questions. Probably more than anyone had ever asked you before. And it felt incredible, didn't it? Finally someone who was genuinely curious about you, someone who actually listened. But you know what they were doing was building a profile. Every answer you gave was data. Your taste, your history, your soft spots, your dreams, the things that made you feel understood, all of it logged. Then came the reflection. Slowly, carefully, they started feeding it back to you. The same music, the same opinions, the same wounds, the same values you'd said mattered most to you. And the more they reflected, the more you felt that pull. That sense of recognition, that feeling of finally. But guess what, that feeling, by the way, has a name. It's called the illusion of compatibility. And it is extraordinarily effective on people who have spent a long time feeling unseen. Which, let's be honest, is exactly why you were chosen. Because here's what they look for before they ever run this play. They look for hunger. Not weakness exactly, hunger. Someone who wants deeply to be understood, someone who's been let down before, and is therefore all the more desperate to believe that this time finally it's real. That hunger makes the mirroring land harder. It makes you do most of the work for them, because you want so badly for it to be true that you fill in every gap yourself. So, they didn't become your perfect match because of some rare and beautiful connection. They became your perfect match because you told them exactly how to. Step by step, conversation by conversation, vulnerability by vulnerability. You handed them the blueprint, and they built the costume. And then wore it just long enough to get inside. Shall we look at what this has actually cost you, and I mean really look. Not the relationships are complicated speech you give yourself at 2 a.m. The actual bill. Because you've been very carefully not looking at it, haven't you? I'd like to start with your gut. You had one. Shocking, I know. There were moments early on where something felt off. A story that didn't match the last time they told it. A reaction that was just a little too perfect. You felt it. That small ping of wrong, and you talked yourself right out of it, only because they were so right in every other way, because you didn't want to be the one who burns something good to the ground. So you shut down the one part of you that was actually paying attention. Well done, because now you don't trust yourself at all, do you? Couldn't see it then, can't trust yourself now, very impressive, great trade. Then there's your time. Time you spent chasing a version of them that only ever existed because you needed it to. While you were tying yourself in knots trying to get back to that feeling, your actual life just kept moving, without you. Hope it was worth it. What about your friends? You pulled back because things at home were too much of a mess to explain. And then they pulled back because they could see exactly what was happening, even when you couldn't. And now there's this gap where there used to be people who actually knew you. You know how it got there, you just keep pretending you don't. Do you even remember the sense of who you are? Oh, this one's good. You stopped mentioning certain things because it was never worth the reaction. You kept opinions to yourself because they always seemed to land wrong. You made yourself smaller and smaller and smaller until you fit neatly into whatever space they decided you were allowed to take up. And now you barely recognize yourself. But sure, they're just misunderstood. Think about your sleep, your peace. When did you last wake up and just feel okay? When did you last get through a full day without that low hum of dread sitting under everything? You can't remember, can you? But go on, tell me again how good things are when it's good. And your voice. You stopped saying what you actually thought, you learned to phrase things carefully. To pick your moment, to brace before you spoke. You got very, very good at keeping the peace with someone who was never once offering you any. Quite the skill you've developed there. Look at all of that. Are you even in there anymore? Because this isn't what a tough relationship costs you. This is what it costs you when someone made a careful study of who you are, and then used every single bit of it to keep you exactly where they wanted you. And you're still making excuses for them. Look, you're already somewhere else. You're already building the case, running the defense. And the worst part is you don't even realize you're doing it, because by now it's automatic. You've been doing it so long that it just feels like thinking. So let me just step in there for a second, because here's what's actually happening in your head right now. You're not thinking about what I said, you're thinking about the last time they were kind. The last good moment, the version of them you caught a glimpse of last Tuesday or whenever it was. And you're holding that up like evidence. Like it disproves everything, like one good moment is somehow a counter-argument to all of it. It isn't. That's not evidence of who they are, that's what's keeping you from seeing who they are. And then there's the part of you that's already decided this is about you. That if you just showed up differently, communicated better, needed less, gave more, that the version of them you fell for would come back. So you're not thinking about leaving, you're thinking about adjusting. Again. You're redesigning yourself for the 100th time trying to unlock a person who was never real to begin with. Let's not insult each other's intelligence and you stop calling that love. Listen, there's also this quiet little voice that keeps saying, but I know them in a way nobody else does. And that one's the cruelest trick of the lot. Because you do know something, you just don't know what you know. What you know is the version they built for you, what you know is the reflection of yourself they wore long enough for you to fall completely. That's not knowing someone, that's knowing your own blueprint in a stranger's hands. And so you stay. Not because it's good, not because it's working. But because leaving means admitting that the whole thing, the connection, the recognition, the feeling of finally, none of it was what you thought it was. And that is a hard thing to swallow. I get it. But you staying doesn't change what it was, it just adds more of your time to the bill. The exit doors you keep finding aren't exits. They're just different ways of standing in the same burning room telling yourself the smoke isn't that bad. But let me tell you, it's that bad. So here we are. You've heard all of it. And I'm not going to ask you how you feel about it because honestly, how you feel about it isn't the point anymore. You've been feeling about it for months now. And has it changed anything? I will answer, feeling hasn't moved you an inch. Well, let's talk about what happens next then. Because something has to. You have exactly 2 options. Not 3, not 4. 2. You already know what they are, you've known for a while now. You just keep hoping that if you wait long enough a third one will appear. But let me state that very clearly, it will not. There is no version of this where you stay exactly as you are and things quietly get better on their own. That's not an option, that's a fantasy. And you've already had enough of those. Let's voice the option 1, you keep going. You go back, you adjust, you try again. You find a new way to phrase the same thing you've been saying for months. You have another conversation that ends the same way the last one did. You shrink a little more, you lose a little more, you hand over another chunk of time to someone who has never once looked at what any of this is costing you. And in another year you'll be even further from yourself than you are right now. If that's even possible. And the option 2, you stop. Not dramatically, not with a big speech. You just stop. Stop explaining, stop adjusting, stop waiting for them to become the person they pretended to be at the start. You accept, and I mean really accept, not just say, that that person was never real. And you start the very uncomfortable, very unglamorous process of finding out who you actually are when nobody's watching. When nobody's managing you, when you're not performing for an audience of one who's been running the whole show. That second option is going to be hard. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But remember, hard and wrong are not the same thing. And you know the difference, you've always known the difference. You just kept hoping you didn't. So, the talk is over. The rest is yours.